This is nitrified, not Netflix.
I had just graduated from college and landed my first job as a warehouse administrator. The building was huge, with many warehouses on different floors. Working the night shift added to the spooky, quiet atmosphere. My team had a supervisor and a few co-workers, but most of the time, I was left alone in the open administration area at the far corner of the warehouse. My workspace was a simple desk with a desktop computer. The PC was old and malfunctioning. I could feel the cursor flicking around occasionally, not aligning with my mouse movements. There wasn't much I could do, so I worked with what I had. The first night was uneventful, with the usual sounds of the warehouse echoing through the empty halls. The hum of machinery, the distant clatter of boxes being moved, and the occasional murmur of my co-workers were my constant companions. Yet there was an underlying feeling of being watched, a prickling at the back of my neck I couldn't shake off. Being shy, I found comfort during breaks on the staircase rather than in the lounge with the others. During one break, someone appeared from behind, seeming to come from the top. He introduced himself as David. He was tall and lean, his emo hairstyle covering most of his eyes, giving him a mysterious and somewhat unsettling appearance. I couldn't tell how old he was because his full face was never revealed. David introduced himself casually, and I felt a strange mix of relief and curiosity. He seemed to come from the upper floors, so I assumed he worked in one of the warehouses above mine. His presence was both comforting and unnerving, a paradox I couldn't quite understand. Over the next few nights, David would often stop by to talk, offering advice about my work. His tips were incredibly useful, and I began to rely on his guidance. There was something about him that drew me in. He spoke as if he knew the ins and outs of my tasks intimately, which puzzled me. When I asked how he knew so much, he simply said he used to help out in my warehouse. David always seemed to know exactly when I was on my break. No matter the time, he would appear, descending the staircase with his usual quiet grace. It was as if he was always watching, always aware. This made me both uneasy and intrigued. Who was David really, and why did he seem so intent on helping me? As David's visits became more frequent, I started to notice changes at the computer. Tasks partially completed that I hadn't worked on. I guessed that a co-worker was accessing my computer while I was away. Due to privacy concerns over my personal web browsing, I decided to change the password. That night, David's attitude changed completely. His friendly manner turned cold and aggressive. He stopped talking to me and even tried to push me down the stairs, claiming I was blocking his way. I was stunned. This wasn't the David I knew. After that incident, I stopped seeing David at the stairs, but I noticed I would return from breaks to find my desk in a mess, the keyboard displaced and papers scattered. Frustrated, I reported it to the supervisor. During our chat, I casually mentioned my encounters with David. My supervisor's expression changed instantly. He looked pale and uneasy. "Which David?" he asked. When I described him, my supervisor revealed a chilling truth. David had died in a road accident a week before I joined the company. My mind reeled, replaying every conversation, every piece of advice, the sudden change of attitude. It all made sense now. Why David knew so much, why he seemed offended after I changed the password, and why my work got completed. The memories of those encounters lingered, and the unease grew unbearable. Finally, unable to cope with the eerie events and constant fear that I would meet David again, I resigned from the job. David had been more than just a helpful colleague. He was a lingering spirit, disturbed and angered by my actions. As I walked away from the building for the last time, I whispered a thank you into the empty air, hoping that David would find peace. I never believed in ghosts before, but now I knew. Some spirits never truly leave.